He does. He gets like 86% of them.
Yeah, and I would say, I mean, of course, but even Cisco, Lou Diamond Phillips doesn't get that many.
He doesn't.
I would say, if I had to guess, I would put it at, I'm going to say, I don't want to do it in even numbers, so I'm going to say 31.
Oh, that's close, Marcus.
Is it? Okay.
37 kills.
Oh, okay. Nice.
No, 37 people are killed. Melvin, of those 37, how many do you think Melvin killed?
Of the 37, I would say 31.
Close, 33.
Oh.
Cisco kills Gump.
Yeah.
And Cisco kills...
The limo driver.
The limo driver.
Yeah. Those are the only two that he kills, right?
Yeah. Well, shoot. Well, I'm forgetting one. There must be a kill I'm forgetting.
For Cisco?
For just in the movie, because there has to be... If Melvin kills 33...
Oh.
That's only 2 kills for Cisco. And I'm trying to remember if...
Yeah, I'm trying to think, like, does the family kill anybody by accident or anything like that? I'm trying like if Applegate kills anybody or...
No.
Oh, well, no. So one of the deaths have to be the cut-up body that Sabato hands Whalberg at the very first. So
there must be a body count, right? Yeah. So there's one more unaccounted for kill.
Huh.
Yeah. Anyway, 37 people killed. That's the body count. And this movie, the statistics on this movie, budget was $13 million. It made around $27 million globally.
Yeah.
So it's a hit, but it's not, it's not going to get a sequel probably off those numbers.
No, I mean, but opening weekend, it, covered a little over $10 million. Came out number 1 opening weekend, too. Yep. So that's huge. But and then also, I mean, you're competing with Titanic still at this time, and also City of Angels, which was huge for so
Nick
many
Cage,
weeks.
Meg Ryan put them together.
Right. I mean, and Lost in Space as well, which was big.
The movie runs 91 minutes. That's not long enough. Like I said, distributed by TriStar. They had a hell of a year, hell of a decade.
Yeah.
Critics didn't like this movie, and I see why. It is a mess. It is all over the place. They take all these things that don't really feel like it belongs, and they try to make them. And do they succeed? For me, yes.
Oh, yeah.
For other people who don't see it, I can completely understand why.
Yeah.
It's like, I bet some people really enjoy Calypso Colada Seagrams.
Yeah. I'm sure there are people out there.
And Calypso Colada Seagrams, this is my movie. This is my Calypso Colada Seagrams movie.
Yeah, this is definitely my Seagrams movie. It's just like a meatloaf that's been made with all these different ingredients. You don't think it's going to taste good, but you throw it in the oven, it comes out, it's cooked, it's edible, and you throw some ketchup on it, and it's delicious. And
some people are going to love it.
Yeah, and there you go. And I think, this puts you in a mood. It definitely makes you happy the whole time you're watching it. I think it did. I always had a smile on my face the whole time I'm watching it. It just reminds you of the 90s. There's so much 90s stuff in this movie that brings you back, whether it's the colors, the dialogue, the music, the actors, all this stuff, the 90s action, how it was just starting out and finding its place with coming over from Hong Kong too. And it's the birth of something during that era, and it's just so much fun to watch and know what it's going to be later on too.
And I think it's aged better than it came out. I think the lens of nostalgia allows us to look back on it fondly. Me, I've been a big hit fan since day one, like I said. And in a retrospective review in 2010, Leonard Maltin labeled it as a guilty pleasure. So here's a guy, big time movie guy, movie critic, and he's like, yeah, this is a really fun movie looking back on it. When it came out, he hated it.
Yeah,
most critics.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, sort of an overall view is that most critics despised the big hit and audiences didn't flock to see it, perhaps confused as to whether it was a comedy or an action movie. It's an action comedy, people.
It is.
And never dreaming it was a hybrid of the two. This is Leonard Maltin's quote on it. Okay. He also states, it expands its ideas to such ludicrous extremes that you can't take it seriously, and that's just what I like about it. Amen, Leonard.
There you go.
Amen. Yeah. So, before we... Let me put my phone on silent.
Yeah, you're blowing up the whole time.
Before we get into the nostalgia portion... Actually, let's do this after. Marcus, I believe you're in charge of nostalgia this week.
Now, I wanted to do something a little different. I know that we've been mixing it up a little bit, and I was almost just going to go back to recreating the scene because 98 is a fun year for a lot of things. I mean, we had, the Dreamcast coming out. We had all this different music coming out as well, and movies and food, and there's so much that I remember from the late 90s and 98, and at this time... I was just got out of high school, so it was my first year in college. Graduated in 97, and that first year, oddly enough, I was about to leave college as well, too, and join the military. But during that brief college stint, there was something so big during this year, so magnificent that transcended my childhood and put me into a place, as I'm sure it did yours. And actually, two things happened this year, and they both involved sports. And now, I know others may document, and other journalists much more profound than Adam and I have tackled these two subjects immensely, especially ESPN. But this was the year of the Maguire-Sosa home run chase.
Oh, baby.
And I vividly remember this year through baseball extensively, where I was in different games, watching different home runs, watching it with my dad, with my friends, all the way to being to college and baseball practice at night, and we had the speakers on so we could hear it, and hearing it when Maguire finally broke the record, and it was just this huge thing that went on. But just to set it up, so April 24th. During this time, Maguire, and then of course the baseball season had already started. They were just a few weeks in to the whole season, to the season that was going on. And during this time, of course, Maguire and Sosa were already in the throes of it. Maguire started off hot, he had, I think 4 total home runs. Through his first maybe 5 or 6 games or something like that, and Sosa was just sitting at 0. But come April 24th, when the movie was released, so the big hit, and that's kind of where I wanted to do the jumping off point, during this time, Maguire had 9 home runs, Sosa had 5, and Sosa and the Cubs were playing the Dodgers. It was in this middle of it, at the beginning, you didn't know what was to expect. Nobody could break Maris's record. People that have gotten close, Brady Anderson, Mark McGwire had before too, but I know when I throw these names out, people got to 50 home runs, which was seeming like it could never be done, and 61 just was way out there. Just starting off, Adam, do you remember this year as far as baseball goes too?
Absolutely. I remember when McGwire broke the record, I ran and wrote it down on my calendar, my Three Stooges calendar. Yeah. I remember I was collecting cards at this point. Still doing that. Not as much as I was in probably the early 90s, but I was still card collecting at this point. 98 in general was just a very vivid year. And I don't know if it's the cultural significance of a lot of other things that were going on, like this, where it's this huge flashpoint in the 90s of this season of baseball, and what a Griffey fan I was to that still. And he was early on. He was in the home run race, but then he just sort of trails off and doesn't really do anything. Got injured for a while, I think. So I remember certainly feeling the idea of anyone hitting 62 home runs was impossible. I think Albert Bell had a 50 home run season. I don't know if did Griffey ever have a 50 home run season?
I think he did. I'm pretty sure he did.
But it wasn't common.
No.
50 home runs now are it's not as jaw-dropping, of course, as Barry Bonds hits 68 or whatever. He hit 72 or whatever the crazy number was. So I remember vividly this time period in my life.
Yeah, and it's just like I think that what brought it back, and during this time, like you said, I was collecting cards, and not as much anymore. I mean, the main part of that when it started for me as a child was early '90s, and around 90, 91 were like big years for me in card collecting. But this got me back in, and I had loved baseball beforehand and always have, but I mean, this brought everybody back. I mean, since the strike in '94, people were still downtrodden on baseball, and nobody, attendance was very low. TV ratings were very low. World Series viewings were very low as well. And we weren't getting a lot of just fans and younger kids who wanted to be in it because of the mess that had happened with the strike, 4 years earlier. And it was still fresh in everybody's mind. And then, as we all know, I mean, McGwire and Sosa both steroid users, but this was needed. Like, steroids was needed in a way during this time to do this. Like, people had to take the fall and in this time be raised up and do unbelievable things to bring people in. And then it's kind of like we hate them for it. Like, you know what? Maybe they shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame, but I think if there's a hall of things that help baseball, McGwire and Sosa need to be in there because they revitalized baseball from then on out. And
McGwire did that a bunch of times. Like it wasn't he didn't revive it in the 80s or 90s because it was hot, but the Bash Brothers were a hot commodity for baseball. Yeah. And both of those guys are huge steroid users.
Right. And I mean, just McGwire and Sosa, these two larger than life guys that you look up as kids and you just see how massive they are, the forearms, the chest, the legs on these guys. Just huge, and I mean, it was just like video game baseball that they were playing and watching. Yeah. It was just unbelievable. And I mean, of course, we know how it ends with McGwire, hitting 70 home runs to finish off the season. Sosa finished, I believe, with 66 home runs. Yeah, and they both tied each other, and it was right there until the last week of the season, and then just McGwire pulled away after Sosa couldn't hit any. But then after this, too, just 2 weeks after, not even 2 weeks after the release of the big hit, came one of the biggest memories that I have, even more than probably McGwire and Sosa, just because I know exactly where I was when I was watching the end of the game because I just got out of school. But it was the Kerry Wood 20 strikeout game as well.
Oh, yes.
Against the Houston Astros. And I remember this vividly, going over to my friend's house. Alex, his father coached, his dad was like one of the assistant football coaches and our baseball coach. We went over to his house, and the cool thing about Alex's dad is that he loved video games, even at I mean, at that time he was probably 45, almost my age, a little older than me right now, but he would always have the newest systems. So at this time they had the Sega Dreamcast, and I always wanted to go over. He would always want to play baseball or football. And so I would play him, and then we got over there. We were watching this, and so we were playing the Sega Dreamcast on one TV and watching the game on another TV. And it was just like this unbelievable thing, just seeing this man this young kid out of nowhere strike out all these guys. Do you remember where you were during that time?
Yes.
The game too?
I don't remember the game. I didn't watch that. I can say for certain. I would watch SportsCenter every morning before I would go to school. Yeah. So I would have it on during my cereal. I remember seeing the SportsCenter for that and watching the K's. And then I remember going to my friend Chris Kirby's house after that school day, and I remember he had the paper, like the newspaper, the front page of our sports section for the Ledger Enquirer. It had like K's, like 20 of them out, and it had like his picture in between them or something like that. I remember him vividly having that in his bedroom. That's crazy. I haven't thought about that in a long time.
Yeah,
that specific memory of being at his house afterwards. I think about the Kerry Woods 20Ks constantly.
Right. And something weird that I was looking up to when I was kind of seeing what came out in '98, and it says the Dreamcast came out in September, but the game occurred in April. But I vividly remember having Alex's dad having the Dreamcast, so I don't know if
did you hang out with Alex after?
You mean after the game, or where after?
Or in September and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, easily, yeah.
Because I find that